Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive and happy 2021. We're doing this, right? We're getting it done in 2021. That's my new favorite saying. So if you're here at the Heal Your Hunger Show for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you've joined us here. This is where everybody comes for refuge when they're tired of the dieting roller coaster ride and all the shenanigans with food. Good Lord, enough is enough. It's time to just settle into a life of self-discovery, self-care, and self-love. And that's what we do here at Heal Your Hunger. And on the Heal Your Hunger Show, I delve into different parts of really what makes the emotional eater tick and how to live free from the obsession and compulsion with food and weight. Because you don't have to be overweight to be an emotional eater, and you don't have to be a binger to be an emotional eater. But boy, oh boy, if you're gripped with an obsession with food and weight, whatever your size, whatever your habits around food, guess what? It's not about the food. So this is what we talk about here, is what it's really about. And I often have guests here who have amazing health information and other kinds of expertise that can really support you on your healing journey. So welcome. I'm so glad you found us. Also, if you are not sure if you're an emotional eater or not, definitely take the quiz and find out. Go to healyourhunger.com and take the quiz. And in this quiz, you will you'll get a personalized score, and you'll learn whether you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. And lastly, join us in the Secret Sauce group. This is where I record a lot of my shows. I also am in there posting and supporting people from around the globe who want to up-level their health and overcome their just funky habits with food and weight. So welcome, and join us in the Secret Sauce group as well. Okay, on with the show. This show today is taken from literally a class I gave last night. And I just thought it would be super useful as a podcast, so that everybody who listens in different ways can access it through the podcast, because the topic is how to lose 10 to 15 pounds, get happy, and fall in love with yourself in 2021. It's time. So that's what the topic is of this class. I gave it live to many people who joined me. And if you're in the Secret Sauce group or you're on my mailing list, you can get on the list by going to healyourhunger.com. If you're on the list, you got notified. If you weren't on the list, you didn't get notified. So make sure you're on my list. I gave this class live and many people participated. It was super fun, and you'll hear me calling them out here and there throughout the class. But I hope you enjoy. It's a super important topic. It's time to be your best self and fall in love with that best self in 2021. Here we go. We're getting started officially. Thanks everybody for your patience. I do appreciate it. My clients, I have lots of clients here, and they kind of are used to me being a little wacky. So welcome everybody. Deep breath. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Really happy you're here. Thanks for putting in the chat where you're from. Super cool. That helps me tremendously. What I want you to do is take a little trip with me. So I have arranged for a special machine to arrive at your house. Play with me. It's come to your door, and it's a time travel machine. So open your door, get in the time travel machine, just open the door, sit in the time travel machine, close the door, and come with me to many moons ago. And this is me, and you're in my kitchen. You're time traveled to my kitchen on Westford Road in Concord, Mass. And I've got a container of Ben & Jerry's. So I reach my spoon into the bottom of the ice cream container. It's the perfect last bite. Gooey caramel swirling around, creamy vanilla ice cream with 2 praline pecans that had just the right amount of crunch. But you see, I couldn't enjoy that last bite because not only had I finished the entire container of ice cream, but I had polished off an entire bag of popcorn, half a container of cookies, and dozens of Hershey's Kisses. I felt completely sick and disgusted. I swept up the wrappers and remaining cookies and I threw them in the trash, vowing never to eat that kind of crap again. But after passing out on the couch for a few hours, I awakened to the siren songs of the food in the trash. And I answered. As if in a trance, I stumbled over to the trash can. I pulled out the cookies and I polished them off. Once again, my insatiable hunger led me to even deeper depths of shame. You see, by age 13, this was me. And by age 20, this is me at 50 pounds overweight. So I was an emotional eater. And no matter what I tried, I couldn't stop. No matter what I tried, of course, tried diets. Of course, what do? You try diets. I did diets. I did exercise programs. I did pills and potions and lotions. I tried 12-step programs. I went to therapy. I even went to an eating disorders therapist. Spirituality, books, self-help books galore, courses. Any of this sounding familiar? So I tried all these different things, but I felt completely hopeless because every time I'd lose weight, I'd end up gaining it again. I could lose the weight, at times, or some weight. I was a yo-yoer, so I'd lose like 30 and then gain 20 and then lose 10 and then gain 25. I was all over the map, and I had like 5 different sizes of jeans in my closet because I never knew what size I was going to be, and I was always hoping that I would fit in the skinny jeans. Anybody relate with me here? So that's how I lived. And it was very shameful and humiliating to me because I was so out of control and I was bigger than my friends. And, I just felt like, God, am I going to have to spend the rest of my life this way? Is this how it's going to go? And I knew it was unhealthy to go up and down the scale like this, but I tried so many different things. And what happened for me, thankfully, by the grace of God, is I met somebody, showed me that I didn't have to diet and I didn't have to do crazy exercise plans. So I really was so grateful for this information and the guidance I got. So I invested in the mentorship of this person, and he showed me how to finally address and heal the things that were really bothering me, the things I was eating over. And that completely transformed my life. And I've never been the same since. And I worked with him for years to help others. And 4 years ago, I founded Heal Your Hunger. I started my podcast, I wrote my book, and I started helping women all across the globe. So I'm an emotional eating expert. I'm an author, a speaker, and a coach. And podcast host. I was 50 pounds overweight and found a solution to end my weight loss struggles. I've spent the past 3 decades researching the hidden causes of emotional eating. Every kind of emotional eater I've worked with. I've shown hundreds of women how to implement my proven system for feeling in control around food without the need for diets and exercise programs. And I've shared about this system on stages worldwide and on media such as NBC, CBS, KTLA, Fox, and Discovery Health. It's been such a blessing to help women across the globe with this problem, and not from any standpoint that they've known before. And some of my clients are here today, and I thank you all for being here. It warms my heart to have you here. I love you. So my promise to you today is to show you my step-by-step system to lose 10 to 15 pounds, get happy, and fall in love with yourself in 2021. Who wants that? It's time, isn't it? So does this sound like you? Have you been struggling with binge eating for as long as you can remember? Do you feel like you've tried everything in the book to lose the weight, but no matter what you try, you keep falling back into your old patterns? Do you feel ashamed when you stay up late at night, stuffing yourself and wake up in the morning with a sugar hangover? Have you ever avoided getting together with friends or perhaps keep the camera off on a Zoom meeting because you're embarrassed about how much weight you've gained? That's very real for a lot of people right now. When you hit an emotional low, do you turn to food to bury your pain? Is that your go-to? Are you worried that you're setting a bad example for your kids and grandkids? Are you secretly terrified that if you don't do something about this soon, you might be stuck with this problem and excess weight forever? And if so, I totally get that, because as you saw, that was me. Do you blame yourself, saying things like, I'm weak, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'll never get it? These are the things I said to myself. I just thought I was a loser. I'm like, the other kind of loser. I can't do it. I just can't do it. It's never going to work for me. Do you find yourself saying those thoughts? I can see the chat, so I'm happy to hear your amens. I want you to know it's not your fault. Okay, it's not your fault. I know that you're probably beating yourself up because you've tried things that haven't worked, but I really am here to say it's not your fault. Put the mallet away, okay? Do you find yourself saying, this was totally me? I'll be happy when I'm X amount of pounds. I said that over and over and over. I'll be happy when I'm this weight, or I can fit into those jeans, or even nothing to do with weight. I'll have that job. There was always something else. But in terms of the weight, it's all I thought about. So yes, I was constantly thinking, if only I can get to my goal weight. But the problem is that, anytime I did, I'd get to my goal weight, I'd feel fabulous, or maybe not even goal. You don't have to get to your goal weight. If you lose any weight, it feels great, right? So I felt fabulous. And then the wheels came off. Things went sideways. Anybody relate? So what happened? Why is this? It got hard, right? It got hard. That's what I hear from women over and over and over again. I was doing good for a little while and it got hard and I couldn't keep it up. And I want to talk today about why that is. First of all, you were doing it by willpower. You were working on your mindset and you were trying to keep your motivation up. But guess what? You will run out of these things. If that's how you're doing it, you're going to run out. And then you're going to be right back where you started. Why? Well, first of all, because 98% of all diets fail. Can you guys take that in? 98% of all diets fail. That is ludicrous, right? Because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry annually. But 98% of the diets are going to fail. That's a statistical fact. So let's talk about diets and why they fail. First of all, when you're going on a diet, you're in a quick fix mentality, right? You're like, and it makes sense. When your house is on fire, you just want to put the fire out. You're like, I don't fit. This feels awful. I got muffin top. I'm going to go for the next diet. Or I'm going to do that, thing I keep hearing about. There's always a thing. So we're in quick fix mentality. There's a quick fix, but I want to ask you, how long have you been trying quick fixes? A long time, right? Not so quick, is it? So it's a delusion that there is a quick fix. Also, when we're doing the diet thing, we're making it about the food and the weight, and it's not about the food and weight. We're also setting ourselves up to feel deprived. We're going this super strict diet. Here are the rules. This is what I'm doing. But then we're longing for our other foods and we're feeling deprived. And that can't last too long. And it never does. Also, we get in that diet mentality of good and bad thinking. Oh, I did good today. I hear this all the time. I did good today. I did bad today. And I just tell my clients, clear that verbiage off, like just off your tongues, out of your head. There's no such thing. It's not good and bad. Okay, let's get that out of that punitive language out of us. We have to take here's the deal with diets. It takes the focus off of the internal cues. So what I mean by that is that when we're on a diet, we're basically giving our power away to somebody else and we're saying, tell me what to eat, right? Tell me what to eat and I'll eat it. And people, when they first, talk to me, they're like, what can I eat with your program? I'm like, you can eat any goddamn thing you want to eat because I'm not here to tell you what to eat. Everybody's different. Everybody is different, So if you're just like following some guru's diet, what happens if the guru dies? Or what happens if the diet isn't right for your body? That's a problem. So it's really important to get off of asking somebody else what you should eat. Okay. Obviously, there's amazing health information. Reading books, doing research is important. But at the end of the day, we can't be looking outside ourselves. We have to get in touch with our internal cues. But you can't do that if you're overeating, obviously. So when you go on a diet, you have to come off the diet. And that's the rub, right? Like it's not when you go on a diet, it's like things are great, but then you have to go off a diet. You can't stay on a diet forever. Wouldn't it be nice to have a sustainable plan that you can do day by day and it's not a going on or going off at all? And of course, a diet is not going to address the underlying causes. And it begs the question, how did we get here in the first place? How did I get 50 pounds overweight by age 21? How did that happen? Something happened. I wasn't born 50 pounds overweight. What happened? So if I'm on a diet, I'm totally disconnected from myself, not addressing how I got there in the first place, which is really going to have information about how I'm going to get out of that place. So the bottom line is it's not about the food. And I'm going to have some slides coming up. You're probably going to want a pen if you don't have a pen and paper, by the way. So the hidden problem is emotional eating. This is what's getting overlooked. This is why people are missing it. This is why 98% of all diets fail, because people are, they're getting all kinds of information about nutrition and keto and intermittent fasting. And it's like, dieters could write the book, we could write our own nutrition book. So we know a lot, but we don't follow through on what we know. So there's a little problem, right? There's a gap. So what does it mean to be an emotional eater? Some of this might be new to you, some of it might not, but let's review, okay? It's worth reviewing. First of all, we come in all shapes and sizes. Seriously, you don't have to be overweight. It's a myth that emotional eaters are all obese. Not so. You can be in a normal sized body and be an emotional eater. Also, it's a myth that emotional eaters all binge. Not necessarily. You may have a really, a person who's really strict with their food and they do not binge, but you can bet the shenanigans they do with food is emotionally driven. You may think emotional eaters are people who only overeat, but people who undereat are emotional eaters also. How do I figure? Well, consider if we have to control something severely to the point of restriction and deprivation, anything we have to control is actually out of control. Otherwise, we wouldn't need control. Make sense? And anybody who's restricting what they're eating and very obsessed with their weight and with thinness, that's coming from an emotional place just as much as my obsession with being over, my weight and the foods that I ate. That was emotionally driven and restricting, and going in the other direction. Same. And I've been on both sides, actually. I've been overweight and I've been underweight, both emotionally driven. I got very close to anorexia when my dad was dying from cancer because it was the only thing I could control. I got hooked into that anorexic thinking, like can't control his death, and his cancer, but I can control what I put in my mouth. It was very unhealthy. Thank God I didn't stay there. So emotional eating is a spectrum, and it's also progressive. Okay. So it's a progressive condition, and which means it gets worse. Okay. So it gets worse. So here are some different points on this chart. I don't know if you can see the chart that well, but I'll just point these things out. Higher up on the chart, somebody who's drawn to carbs, sugar, and fat. That's, tends to be what emotional eaters go for sure. Somebody who binge eats, definitely. They're doing that it's emotionally driven for sure. Nighttime eating. I've done surveys, and about 75% of emotional eaters have their hardest time. They report having the hardest time between like late afternoon into the night. Okay. So late afternoon and evening, that's when they do the most eating. Down, as we go down this progression, as things get worse and worse, we neglect personal hygiene. Now, I don't know if anybody's going to admit to this, but I'll tell you what it was like for me. When I binged, I felt so gross, and I was so self-hating. Like the whole point of binging in the first place is I'm kind of beating myself up. I was abusing my body with food. I was self-abusive. So when I'm in that self-abusive, dark consciousness of I hate myself, what's it matter? Oh, I start out with I'm going to reward myself with my favorite foods, Ben and Jerry's, ice cream, Hershey's Kisses. But no. After I've eaten, like basically gorged myself, I am not feeling so good, right? I feel so gross and so bad and so angry at myself. And all I want to do is numb out. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to floss my teeth. You can bet that. I'm going to keep all the little corn things in between my teeth. I'm going to pass out on the couch. That's how it was for me. I don't know how it is for you, but some of my binges were very dark and very self-hating, especially if they went on for more than 1 or 2 days. It just grubby clothes, dirty clothes. Sometimes I had pants that I wouldn't wash because like my best pants that I thought looked skinny in, I wouldn't wash them because if I did, this is before spandex, if I did, they wouldn't fit. Like the minute I wash them, they're going to shrink and they won't fit me anymore. So I would wear pants that I wouldn't wash. It's kind of gross. Very gross. Low self-esteem. Definitely. I suffered from that for years, and my parents were good. They're good people, but there are ways that they didn't have strong self-esteem. And I kind of absorbed that lack of self-esteem. Not to blame them, but that's, where was I going to get it from? Overeaters or overdoers. Okay. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a bit. So that's a problem. When you're running yourself ragged, doing, it leads to overeating for one thing, because you're tired, but also it's driven by what drives emotional eating. It's driven by emotions that the need to be constantly in motion because I didn't want to be with myself. Anybody relate to this? Resentment and blaming. Now, I did not think of this as a trait I possessed, but when I looked back, I saw that, because I was afraid to speak up for myself, I kind of burned about things. I kind of was like, I was afraid to speak up, but I ended up being very resentful of people on account of it. And isolation. And this is probably worse now than ever on account of COVID. So isolated because I thought I was the only one who'd eaten out of the trash. I thought I was the only one who did crazy things that I did with food and in an attempt to get rid of the food. Are you guys picking up on laying down? Do you relate to any of this? So put it in the chat. Okay, here's another problem with being an emotional eater. We're often in denial about it. This woman said, I'm going to order broiled skinless chicken breast, but I want you to bring me lasagna and garlic bread by mistake. I love this. It is so quintessential. It's so quintessentially an emotional eater's journey. Like we just want our food and we'll go to any lengths to get it. And we'll tell whatever lies we have to tell to get it. And we're not bad people. We're just kind of desperate and we want what we want. So I want to talk to you about the emotional eating spectrum because not everybody was like me. Not everybody ate out of the trash. Although Vicky just admitted it. She said, I've thrown stuff away and retrieved it later. Thank you. Thank you. Kathy said you're spot on. Thanks, Kathy. So emotional eating is a spectrum. It's my belief that we're all hardwired. Like God hardwired us to have an emotional connection with food because it tastes good and we need to eat it. So we got to have some kind of reason to eat it. It can't just be food. It's got to have some connection for us. Otherwise we might blow it off and die and not live, not be sustainable as a planet. So, I think everybody's an emotional eater, but definitely not everybody's like me. So, and maybe not like you. So here's how we qualify where you end up on the spectrum. And I have a quiz on my website. You can take that later if you want. So on the low end of the spectrum, it's qualified by control. So somebody's got a lot of control. Perhaps they, went on a cruise, gained 5 pounds, came back, and they just took it right off. They just did extra jogging that week, cut out sweets, and boom, it's off. That's somebody with a lot of control. Not my experience. Okay. And very few consequences. That person didn't have health issues on account of gaining 5 pounds from eating and drinking too much. Took it right off. Me, on the other hand, I've got a lot of consequences. I feel like crap. I hate myself. I don't fit into my clothes. I spent a lot of money on binge foods. I start to have health issues on account of it. And I have very little control. I cannot control myself. That's the high end of the emotional eating spectrum. On the low end is emotional eating. On the high end is actually food addiction. The way I ate, 2,000 calories, 3,000 calories in a sitting, pretty violent and definitely in the addiction arena. And it would go on for days. I couldn't just snap out of it. But what was really important is that I go deeper and I deal with the underlying causes. So I want to talk to you about the PEP formula. Because this is going to answer, at least at a first level, what those underlying causes are, because a lot of people are like, a lot of people have heard that before, like underlying causes. Yeah. But what are these underlying causes? Let's dig into that. Let's see what they actually are. So in the PEP formula, what this is about is, first of all, we know what food does to us. We know it's doing stuff to us. We might be in denial about that too, okay, frankly, but we know it's making us fat. We know we don't fit under our pants. So we've got some awareness of what it's doing to us. But what we don't clue in with is what it's doing for us, okay? So this is what I want to talk to you about. We use food. It's serving us, right? We use it for a reason. We use food as a painkiller because we're in pain. I mean, think about it. In the times when food was hardest for you, you were in painful circumstances. You were in a job that wasn't working for you, or in a relationship that wasn't, it should have been over a long time ago. Or perhaps you have a kid who's got special needs, or a parent who's got COVID. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of pain to go around. So the driving emotion is pain. And that's why we like the carby, sugary foods. That's why we like heavy, fatty, carby foods, because they bury the pain. It's the best painkiller around, as far as I'm concerned. It works like that, and it was my drug of choice. Alcohol was good too, but my obsession was food. We use food also as an escape. The E in the PEP formula. The P is painkiller. The E is escape. We use food as a form of escape because, hey, life is kind of scary. So we have fear and we run. We run on account of the fear. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like a pandemic to get people to run from their reality, to just check out, right? And there's no other time, I think, than people are realizing they're an emotional eater. Everybody, at COVID time just dove right into the food. They were stuck at home with food, stocked food, and they were also afraid. And they were checking out with food. The P in PEP, the second P, stands for punishment. And boy, oh boy, do we ever punish ourselves. But it doesn't make sense at first because it seems like food's a reward, right? I got my goodies, I worked hard all week, I'm going to reward myself. So we think of food as a reward, and that is true. But the way I ate and the way perhaps that you eat, I was also using food to hurt myself. The way I ate, it was harmful to myself. And that's on account of buried guilt, you know. And you may not relate to that. And the women in my program get in touch with that. They do a lot of really important work, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, and it might be guilt for things we're not guilty for. But also, you know, when we feel crappy, we can be bitchy. So we feel guilty about being a bitch. I know I did. Sometimes I actually, in college, my friend and I, we had this little chant, we are not bitches. Why do you suppose we would say that? We are not bitches. Because we were, obviously. We were just trying to rationalize it. So pain, fear, and guilt are the three primary like overarching emotions that drive emotional eating. But I'm going to dig into it a little bit more. And that's the anatomy of the emotional eater. Like, what drives pain, fear, and guilt? The personality traits of an emotional eater. So in my research, I've identified 24 personality traits that really make up the emotional eater's experience. And boy, oh boy, do they ever drive eating, but they have nothing to do with food. So that's why, you know, the diet thing isn't a solution, you know, long-term, because it does nothing to deal with how we got there in the first place. So I'll give you some of these traits. I can't give them all to you, but I'm going to give you some of them, some of the real winners. Okay. So people pleasing. I've never met an emotional eater who wasn't a people pleaser. And if you relate, put it in the chat for sure. So people pleasers, you know, say yes to everything. Sure, I'll do it. Give it to me. And then people expect it. And so they keep giving us the extra work, you know. But as people pleasers, we want so much for people to like us that we take we take on other people's work. We do stuff that's not ours to do. You know, we do our kids' homework when they should be doing it themselves. We run around trying to make people happy when it's not our job. But what does this do? This burdens us. We do it to ourselves, let's be clear. But we burden ourselves. We take on extra work. We run ourselves ragged. We exhaust our adrenals. You know, and not only that, but we're really pissed off because nobody's ever as pleased as we expect them to be when we knocked ourselves out trying to make them pleased, right? Have you ever noticed? Like, it's like, oh yeah, thanks. You're like, thanks? I just like killed myself for you. Is that all you're going to give me? So it's very unsatisfying. But let's be clear, even if they're like fawning over what we did and praising us, which if they have our number, they know that works for us, you know, they're praising us. And yet that doesn't last very long either. It gets empty fast. So we go home and we have what I call it, the I deserve it binge, right? Screw them. They're not going to recognize me. I'm going to recognize myself, you know, and we're tired. It's a perfect setup, right? We're tired already. It's like we've got no resistance. So that is how we're living is informing how we're eating, because guess what? It's actually a living problem. For emotional eaters, it's a living problem, not an eating problem. That's why we've got to go deeper. Also, emotional eaters are extra sensitive. We're like walking pincushions. What does she mean by that? You know, why did he look at me that way? You know, they're talking, we see other people talking, they're talking about me, right? We're so, somebody makes a comment and we're like, oh, she's putting me down, when it might have been a really innocuous comment. So we're so sensitive. Oh, we're so sensitive. Do you guys relate to that? And it's not bad. It's not a bad trait when you know how to use it. Okay. If you're just like out there and everything hurts, that's where the eating comes in, because you try to protect yourself. You try to cover up the sensitivity with protection. You know, weight is a good protection and food is a good protection. Overeaters or overthinkers. Anybody relate to having a racing mind? Oh my God, we don't ever stop thinking. We think everything to death, right? I love this beginner's meditation. And people don't even bother with meditation, because anytime they try it, they think they're doing it wrong. They're thinking all the time and they're like, see, I don't know how to do this, or this is too hard. But Everybody has thoughts while they meditate. Newsflash. Laura says she's a chronic overthinker. Yeah, join the club. Overeaters or overdoers. I talked about that a little bit. We're taking on everything and we have like no boundaries on our time. So it's like we just keep stuffing our schedule with more and more things. And that leads to overeating. These are all traits that have nothing to do with food, but they lead to overeating. Do you guys see this? Do you see what I mean by this? Yeah, overthinking. Kathy said analysis paralysis for sure. But the overdoing is out of control for us. Loneliness. And this is a great cartoon. It said the woman's in bed saying, and somebody's knocking the door and she says, "Go away, I'm feeling lonely." We treat loneliness with isolation. It makes no sense whatsoever, does it? And the thing is about us as emotional eaters, we're lonely, but the thing we want more than anything is connection. Like we want to connect. We want so much to connect, but we're like on the outside looking in at other people. And, our eating behavior creates that. We already feel alone, but then when we binge and when we do things we're embarrassed about with food and weight, then it isolates us more. It alienates us from other people because we have secrets, right? When our eating is secretive, it makes us feel more and more alone, and we use food for connection. Like food's our best friend, essentially. Isn't this the cutest photo? So we use food for connection. And Sarah said, I totally relate to everything you're saying. Yep, you're probably an emotional eater. So thanks for letting us know. But do you see why diets are so ridiculous? Like in light of what I've just shared with you, like how could a diet possibly fix the problem? It doesn't. That's why 98% of all diets fail, because you just follow a food plan. That's not going to fix your people pleasing. That's not going to make you put less things on your schedule. So people change their eating. They take away all their ooey gooey chewy foods. They're eating salads and cottage cheese, but they're still doing everything the same. My friends, if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's a living problem, not an eating problem. You got to start changing how you live. So here's a good analogy. If there were a cancer patient who was in the hospital and they're administering morphine to this cancer patient, does that patient have a cancer problem or a morphine problem? You can put it in the chat. Morphine or cancer? They're in there and they're giving him lots of morphine because he's in lots of pain. Is it a morphine issue or a cancer issue? Yeah, right on, Monica. Right? Morphine's what's treating the pain of the cancer. It's a cancer problem. So dieting is the same way, we're treating our living problem with a diet. It's not a food problem. It's a living problem. So just, following a food plan is not going to get you to your goals, but I'm going to show you what will. I hear this all the time, especially now. If I had $1 for every time I talked to a woman who said I was doing good until COVID, until I lost my job, until we moved, until my daughter lost her job, until the kids came, right? Until my husband lost his job, until I was doing good until. I hear that all the time. I would be a very rich woman if I had $1 for every time I heard it. But it speaks to the problem. And the problem is that if you're just dieting and you don't have any tools for your living problem, and Tracy said, until my mom passed. Yeah, exactly, a death. Absolutely. I'm sorry your mom passed. I was doing good until something happened, some storm hit. So my friends, that's not a solution. That is not a viable solution, dieting, because you don't know what to do when the storm hits. Food is your coping tool. So long as it's smooth sailing, sure, you can do the diet, you can do the exercise plan, But the minute a storm hits, you're down the tube with the food because your food is your main coping tool. And you have not developed any more coping tools. It's your drug of choice, and you turn to it when life gets hard. And that's why diets are so silly in light of emotional eating, which is always the hidden cause of somebody's, I'd say, chronic weight loss troubles. Or always is a strong word. There's always some exceptions. There are exceptions, but I'd say 95% of the time, it's emotional eating. So we've got to go deeper. We have to dig deeper. And that's why Heal Your Hunger is here, to help people with weight loss from the inside out. Okay, it's not a diet. It's weight loss from the inside out. So I want to know what your plan is for 2021. What's your plan? Well, I'm going to give you a plan that I know will work. So I'm gonna tell you about the plan I know.
And I'm Shaduna Dulo. There are a lot of news stories and mirrors saying many of us have gained a lot of weight during the pandemic.
Yeah, one expert on emotional eating tells us it's all about how we deal with stress. But she says we can curb bad habits by taking a new approach.
How to heal our hunger is our featured story on the top of the list. About 27% of Americans reach for salty or sugary snacks for comfort, says a report from the American Psychological Association.
They're not healthy foods, and they are taking a toll on our bodies and our minds.
Tricia Nelson, an emotional eating expert and founder of the Heal Your Hunger Institute, shares her tips on how to reverse our bad habits in order to boost our mental and physical health. First, start the day with a centering routine.
So we typically pop out of bed and we just, we're on the go.
Instead of hitting the ground running, she says to take a moment to check in with yourself.
I call it the spiritual bank account. Okay, so putting deposits in our bank account, maybe a meditation routine. Some people do a yoga practice. Some people take a nice walk. They walk their dog.
Journaling and exercising also help to center your mind.
Just really focus on the positive and really just things you want in your day.
Next, create your 3-meal magic plan.
What it is it's eating 3 meals a day with nothing in between.
The goal is to avoid the snacky foods that get us into trouble.
Because they're never celery sticks and broccoli. It's always nuts and chips and chocolates and candies and, cookies.
A Harvard Medical School study shows that eating quality whole foods 3 times daily can help with hunger and weight loss.
3 meals a day with nothing in between is a great prescription for somebody who is struggling with their weight and struggling with emotional eating.
At number 3, maintain connection.
What we're really craving so much of the time is connection with other people. That heart-to-heart connection is so important.
We have hormones in our bodies that kick in, like oxytocins, when we have communication with friends and family.
It is feeding us and nourishing us on a deeper level.
This connection helps us avoid snacking out of boredom. So take advantage of technology like Zoom or Skype and plan family and friend meetings to catch up.
It's not wrong to say, hey, I'm feeling a little lonely and isolated.
Finally, focus on the positive.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad news out there, and if we have the news on for any amount of time, we're just hearing a whole stream of negativity, and that breeds fear, and fear leads to emotional eating.
This usually comes in the form of carb-heavy and sugary snacks.
Really important that we are intentional about feeding our minds with positive information.
When you tap into those messages, it increases your sense of well-being and positivity.
And that's really going to help us stay out of the kitchen because we don't have that free-floating anxiety that we often turn to food to quiet.
Taking the emotion out of eating is at the top of the list.
Okay, so back to my talk. Wasn't that helpful? Yeah, it kind of it helped me. I didn't have to say all that. So super cool. But I'm gonna recap for a little bit. So here are the 7 simple steps to end emotional eating now. Okay, and I'm gonna blow through these in the interest of time. I'm gonna do it lickety split, but you did hear a really nice encapsulation from that video. So connection and community, these are vital. Every single one of these is vital. Thanks, Kathy. Thank you guys. Oh, I feel so loved. So connection and community is vital. Nobody can do this alone, friends. You can't do it alone. This is a typical evening call with my clients. We are all supporting each other in having a new experience with food and with life, as you know, okay? It's vital that we support each other, especially now, more than ever. But so many emotional eaters want to do it on their own, right? We're like, we should be able to do this. We're always shooting on ourselves. We should be able to do this on our own. Not so. You can't do it on your own. Food is the hardest of all addictions to overcome. So damn straight, you got to get help with it. Don't be mean to yourself about that. Centeredness. You heard me talk about putting money in the spiritual bank account. So important because, later in the day, that's when food is harder for people because we're exhausted and we're out of resources. Our willpower is strongest first thing in the morning and it wanes throughout the day if we have any at all. So this is why creating a morning centering routine is like putting money in your bank account, and you can take withdrawals throughout the day, but you got to put the money in there first thing in the morning. So my clients are using this as their success system. It's called the 6 Self-Care Success Secrets. And oh my goodness, it really works. And it's hard to follow. Again, the community helps you follow through with this stuff. But boy, oh boy, it makes all the difference in the world. And, people know they should meditate. Everybody's like, yeah, it's like, it's not the 60s anymore. It was just the hippies doing the meditating. No, it's like Harvard studies are done on the power of meditation on our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. And so it's huge. But my clients are actually doing it. They're not talking about it. They're not thinking it's a good idea. They're actually doing it. Absolutely. Yeah, so hard to do by yourself, Laura. Right on. So these are the other things. And what these all do is they work together to form really a resource of well-being. A resource of well-being that just carries you through the day. It lessens stress. It makes you kind of just be able to handle the bumps in the road better. I could not live without my 6 self-care success secrets. In fact, yesterday I was feeling really tapped out. I'd been on Zoom teaching for several days. I was exhausted and it wasn't sleep that I needed. I needed a recharge. And there's not a lot you can do these days. You can't get a massage in LA. You can't get your nails done. And so I said, I'm going to get in my car, and I drove up the coast to Malibu and I took a walk on the beach. And I did take my shoes off and I grounded by putting my feet in the sand, and it felt so good. And I just walked and walked and walked, and it just helped me restore. And then I saw the sunset. It was amazing. So self-care is vital. The third of the steps to end emotional eating is clean eating. And you heard it in the video. 3-meal magic is 3 meals a day with nothing in between. And this is not a diet. So in case anybody's like, eek, it's not a diet. This is how you get in touch with your emotions. How are you going to heal, the underlying causes if you don't know what they are? You don't know that you can't do it on an intellectual basis. So the space between the meals gives you it gets you in touch with yourself. Like you start to realize, oh, that's a feeling, and when you don't medicate it with food, you start to recognize what those feelings are. Friends, as emotional eaters, we're like so disconnected from what emotions are. We've spent a lifetime just like running scared because as children, it wasn't safe to feel. Okay. For most of us, we had things that happened that we wanted to not be present for. And it just became a habit. And that's how we spent our lives, is just burying pain, fear, and guilt. So 3-meal magic with support. It's a diet if you don't do the self-care and if you don't get the community support, but working together, it's an amazing process. Communication. Emotional eaters just don't seem to want to speak up for themselves. It's say it or stuff it for us. And we're usually stuffing it because we're so afraid of speaking up. We're so, again, people pleasing comes into this, right? We're so afraid to not be liked. So we say nothing and we stuff it with food. We absolutely stuff it with food. Not a good plan. This has to change. Absolutely. This is what happens when we stuff it. We get really resentful. I love this of the cat. Oh my God, so cute. We also don't know how to say no. And my clients are getting really ninja at this. They're getting really good at saying no. Consciousness. This is where we slow down and we start connecting with our divine spirit in whatever that is for you, whatever God, higher power, source energy, spirit, Jesus, whatever, Allah, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter to me. It matters to you. Gravitate, and connect with what speaks to you and what comforts you. That's the bottom line, is we want to feel connected and comforted. We want to have some kind of spiritual practice and belief, and it can be yours. You get to decide. You're an adult, you decide, but the most important thing is it doesn't really matter what you believe. It matters that you cultivate this, you seek that consciousness. And it doesn't even have to be spiritual. It can be with nature. Spirituality is a broad term. It can be something that just feeds your soul. You need to be fed in a deeper way than the foods that you're eating. Causes. Of course, there are deeper causes. Of course, as emotional eaters, we've gone through it, haven't we? Damn, we've got some stuff. We've got some stuff and we've got to deal with it. And the anatomy of the emotional eater makes it easier for us because it just kind of, it's sort of like the low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of causes, but these things, people are always like, oh, the one cause is my dad was an alcoholic, or the one cause is my mom died when I was 10. There's not just one cause. Why? Because yes, we had trauma, but what happened when we had trauma as kids is it spawned lots of different coping tools, okay? And that's what you see in this list here. You see coping tools. That's what the traits of the emotional eater are. Okay, they are coping tools that we used to get by when we were kids and didn't have a whole lot of options. We used food and we used this. We might have used fantasy or masturbation or reading. Okay, we had slim pickings as kids of what we couldn't go score drugs downtown, so we had to use what was available to us. But these are coping tools that we use. People pleasing was a coping tool. If dad is raising hell and throwing things or about to strangle mom, you can bet we should be pleasing dad. Okay. If, mom's drunk again, you can bet we're going to have a racing mind trying to think of how to anticipate the next issue or the next problem in the household. So many of these things are connected to our childhood, but the problem is they worked as a kid to get us by, but as adults, they're backfiring on us. That's what people pleasing is. Again, coping tool, survival tool. Caretaking, survival tool. You got to get mom dressed and out the door to work. I mean, I know you guys have had a lot of stuff, but I want to tell you that the good news is you don't need 20 years of therapy to overcome this stuff. And you can do 20 years of therapy if you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm giving you a big shortcut here, at least to start really identifying these things. And this is only a partial list. But here are some of the things that my clients get from the work here and these 7 steps. Peace, self-acceptance, slowing down, learning to put themselves first, being kinder to others, because when we're hating on ourselves, we end up hating on other people or snapping at other people that we love. This is how you fall in love with yourself. This is how you fall in love with yourself. It's the most beautiful, wonderful thing. And it all takes courage. It all takes courage. And I don't have courage, but with other people, with community, with others who are on this path, that's where I get the courage. That's where you get the courage. No question about it. And you're going to need it because you're, in order to overcome your issues with food, okay, we've established a diet's not going to do it. You're going to have to break out of that diet mentality. You're going to have to do something different. And that's scary. You're going to have to go where, you haven't gone before, where no man has traveled. Is it Star Trek? You're going to have to do what you've never done. If you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you always got, right? So we got to break out of the mold and do something different. I want to share just a little testimonial with you. I'm going to share a few of them. And Laura, I'd love it if you shared. I don't know if you're up for that. You can put it in the chat. But for right now, I'm going to play a video of somebody else who was super, super inspiring. This is from the other day. I gave a presentation, and I didn't want to bother these ladies again, but I'm going to play their stories. Here we go.
So I heard your podcast, and I bought your book. And I read your book and I thought, wait a minute, she's just not talking about food and all the diets that I've been on. She's talking about who I am. And when I called, I finally got the courage to call Tricia. And I basically said, hey, Tricia, I got the food thing. I'm got the food thing worked out, I think, but I need to tame my inner bitch.
Right.
And right, I said that.
Yeah.
And I was in an angry place. I was tense. I was annoyed. I was critical. I was perfectionist. Nobody could do anything right. Everybody didn't know how to do anything right around me because everything was wrong. And my husband was like, what can we do? What's wrong? What are we doing wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. And finally I got my mom and my sister and everybody in my life and my staff. I was losing staff. That was the main reason I called Tricia. Is I had staff for years stay, and I was all of a sudden having people quit. I mean, it's days, months, weeks, like just leave. And I thought, you can be married 9 times, but maybe it's you. Why is everybody leaving? I'm the only constant here. So I've got to do something. And I would tell my husband, you get to leave the room. I'm stuck with me. So go, you can go, but I'm still here with all the pricklies around. So I knew something had to be done. And so I told Tricia, that version of my story. And she said, oh, Laura, I cannot wait to get my hands on you. I can help you. You will fit right in here. And so I took the plunge, and at that point I was ready to do work. I was ready to follow the rules. I knew it was going to be hard. And after reading the book, I knew I wasn't disciplined enough to do it on my own. So I knew I needed the community that Tricia offered. And so I made the decision, and then I called her the next day and I said, nope, changed my mind, can't do it. Not going to work for me right now. And she talked me off the ledge. So that was months ago, and Tricia has a system, and the system is amazing. I threw myself in 110%. I said, I'm making this investment in time, and I've got to save my life. Like, I've got to, for myself, for my family, for my team, for my life. So it's not easy. It's some of the most hardest things I've ever done, but it's the most beautiful transformation.
Yeah.
It's so much work to do. I have come so far.
Yeah.
It's nice for you guys to point that out, and the community to point that out, because I don't see it a lot, but I do know. I've had the same team since I started, really. No one's left.
Nobody's quit anymore.
Nobody's quit. My family's happy. And when I am tense, I'm able to say, you know what? I don't know why I said it that way. That wasn't nice. I was just doing some work on, some resentments that I have. And I think I'm just feeling a little icky, and I shouldn't have said it that way. Whereas before, it was not like that.
Yeah. And you've lost weight during this process.
I have. Without even, and throw away the scale, I've lost at least 20 pounds. I haven't got on the scale, so I don't even know. Yeah.
I can see it. In your face, it's very clear.
Yeah.
And
So
your husband, what's he thinking of the new Laura?
Oh, he's like, wow, you're doing great. It's such a pleasure to be around. We laugh, like we have fun. I'm not worried. Am I doing the right thing as a mom, as a wife, as a this, as a that? And,
sweet.
It's a happier life.
Aw. Well, thank you. You're a blessing to have in the program, and you're amazing, and you have done a lot of work, and it's totally paid off. So congratulations, and thanks for coming on to share.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you.
And everything.
I appreciate you too, sweetie.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna grab Pat and bring her on. So there we go. Hey, Pat, I'm gonna, there we go. Oh, good girl.
Hi, Tricia. How are you?
Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too.
So thank you for coming on, and you're a rock star and you're amazing. And will you share what happened for you in the program?
I sure will. I'd be more than happy to share. Well, I had trouble with my weight all my life. If I wasn't on a diet or overweight, I was constantly obsessing about food. I belong to Weight Watchers. I belong to Overeaters Anonymous. I have not been always overweight, but I always had that angst with food, the binging, and there was never any peace with food, never. And several years ago, after Christmas, I was so discouraged because I'd eaten my way all the way through the holidays. And, I got to thinking, I've raised a family. I've had a career. I have a happy marriage. Why in the world can I not get a handle on this eating thing? It was so humiliating. And you just have such a low self-esteem. You really, really do. And so I came across your book and I read your book, and boy, I could see myself, there were so many insights into your book, and I was very enlightening. And I thought, well, now I know what to do. I've got this book. I can just do this. And lo and behold, there was no way I could do it on my own. So I too gave you a call, and we had a very nice conversation, and I joined your program. And I can't say enough about how it changed my life on every level, mentally, physically, spiritually. It was just life-changing. I got rid of all the up and downs with the food. I got rid of the binging. I have joy. I have peace. No, my life isn't perfect, but I have tools and I know how to cope. And it's so enriching. And it's so enriching, it's enriching in your soul, and, life is so short. And it has given me such a sense of worth. And my husband notices it. My kids notice it. So it's just been so enriching. And I can't thank you enough. And if anybody wants a new adventure, boy, this is the way to go.
Okay. So bottom line is, hopefully this is inspiring to you. You can definitely, absolutely lose 10 to 15 pounds, get happy, and absolutely fall in love with yourself. I promise you. And you have a choice of whether 2021 will suck or be awesome. I don't use that word very often, but I didn't know how else to put it. I don't want 2021 to suck for you. I want it to be awesome. I want you to fall in love with you. That you deserve that, and you can have that. Okay. The problem with just losing weight, it feels so good, and we, look so good when we lose weight, but it doesn't stop what's going on between your ears, which is not a love story. Self-criticism, just super mean thoughts towards ourselves. I want that to heal. Okay. So here's how Heal Your Hunger can help. My team and I have set aside time in the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about how you can make 2021 your best year yet, starting right now. Whatever your biggest challenges are, we've seen it and we know how to overcome it. Okay. I promise you. So here's what's going to happen is I want to offer you an amazing, cool thing. All right. And it's the opportunity to speak with one of us. And what we're going to do on this call, on a Zoom call together, is we'll help you determine what's holding you back from meeting your health and weight loss goals. The number one shift, some of you have done this with us before, the number one shift you need to make in order to break out of where you are, and a step-by-step action plan to stop emotional eating and feel better immediately. And good things always come from this call. And the cost is typically $400, and it's free today. This is for you. There's a little caveat, okay? You must be ready to take action and not just like hope it's going to happen, because it's not going to just happen. Let's be clear. And if you're used to postponing things like, oh, I'll do it next year, or I'll do it next month, or I'll do it when something else happens, do not wait. If you're inspired, let's talk for sure. You know, that's inspiration. That's from God. Inspiration is from God. The fact that you took the time to be here, that's God inside of you. Okay. You must be teachable and coachable and willing to follow a proven plan that's guaranteed to work for you. Follow it. Praise God, there's a plan. Do you know how nebulous it can be for people? Mindful eating, intuitive eating, these things are great concepts, but they don't tell you what to do. This is a step-by-step plan. If you follow it, it works. Thank God. And you must be ready to look beyond the symptom of food and weight and be ready to go deeper in order to have a completely different relationship with food. That's what it takes. And we have a lot of fun. Okay. It's not like sitting in a therapy couch. It's actually, we laugh a lot. So why am I offering this to you? I'm doing it because I want to give back. I know personally, not a day goes by that I'm not aware of how painful it was for me personally to be carrying 50 extra pounds on my body. It was the bane of my existence. So I know what that pain is like, and I want to help. And also, I know that whatever you've been doing isn't working, and you may want my help to start getting results, in which case, let's talk. Let's see if it's a fit. It is not a fit for everyone. So let's talk. It's always a lovely opportunity. Andy and I love speaking with these women who come, and sign up for our calls. It's great. It's called an emotional eating breakthrough session. And you will have more awareness when you have this. Okay. This is how you apply. We do have limited spaces. Andy and I opened up our calendars Wednesday and Thursday. Okay. Friday also might be available, although I'm getting my hair done. So that's very important. It's been a while. So healyourhunger.com/apply is how you do this. Okay. healyourhunger.com/apply is how you apply for a emotional eating breakthrough session. And definitely let's do it. Let's talk. It would be a pleasure. I would love it. So would Andy. So spaces are limited, but just jump in there and grab one of those. It'd be absolutely a pleasure. I'm recharged. I went to the beach. I was on calls all Sunday, but I went to the beach. I'm recharged, and I'd love to speak with you, especially. So, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Laura on to finish it up. Hey, Laura, I'm so excited you're here. Let me figure out how to get you. So since you've been in here chatting it up, I want to bring you on to talk.
Here I am.
There you are.
Here I am. I'm going to leave my picture up because I didn't plan on being on video today.
So talk to us about your experience with the program.
My experience has just really been transformative. I'm learning so much about me, and it's so much deeper than just being an emotional eater. It's about like unhealed wounds that I'd kind of buried for the last 40 years. And even like in the very first, the 10 weeks to freedom, just some of the biological and things that I learned was stuff that I had no idea. And now it's opened up my eyes a little bit, and it's given me the freedom to talk to my family and friends about some of this stuff that has bothered me for years that I had no idea how deep it went.
Yeah, you have definitely transformed. And we had a call last week, and you were so cute. You're like, I'm not doing it perfectly, but I've lost 15 pounds anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
That's
definitely
amazing.
on the road to recovery for sure.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Well, thanks for sharing. It's really nice to hear you.
Oh, thanks,
And thanks
Tricia.
for all your chatting. It's really sweet. So
I try
thanks,
to be the
Laura.
rah-rah for everybody.
You are a girl. Well, I'm sure they feel it. I sure feel it. So
Oh,
thank
good.
you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, beautiful. So everybody, thank you so much for being here today. It's, what I really want for you is peace and love and self-love. Self-love is the thing I want more than anything for you. You deserve to have that. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen. In my experience, if you're an emotional eater, it doesn't happen if you're still in the food. It's so painful to be a slave to food, and you deserve freedom. So let's talk. I'd love to support you. And I so appreciate you being here tonight. It's beautiful. So blessings to you. I love you. And I do have a podcast. Feel free to tune into my podcast. It's called the Heal Your Hunger Show. So thanks everybody for your attention and being here. And we went over a little bit. And so thanks everybody who stayed on. It's just really sweet. Love you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. HealYourHunger.com/apply. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit HealYourHunger.com.